Hello, everyone, and welcome to Healthy with an Attitude, the November 2023 edition. Before we begin to prep for the holidays and wrap up 2023, November is a very important awareness month for two reasons. November is Diabetes Awareness Month and Caregiver Awareness Month. Because of both, Dr. B and I would like to discuss the growing public health emergency that is children developing type 2 diabetes at an alarming rate, and also discuss ways that we can help support their parents and caregivers.
Yes, I am so glad that we're highlighting this topic. Often people are surprised that some of the data that I'm going to share, 1 in 8 people do not know that they have prediabetes, and 1 in 5 do not know that they have diabetes. And so when I share those statistics, it's important to highlight diabetes is often referred to as a silent disease, meaning you may not have some of the common symptoms that we hear about: fatigue, increased thirst, urination, blurred vision, slow healing of sores or wounds, and increased infection. So this is such an important topic to highlight.
Absolutely. And let's talk about how that affects the Black community, because it is well documented that Black people not only develop type 2 diabetes at a higher rate, but the mortality rate is quite honestly, it's pretty depressing. But with that, let's be clear on the definition of prediabetes. A lot of people aren't quite sure exactly what that means and how it's different from full-blown type 2 diabetes. So per the Mayo Clinic, and I quote, prediabetes means you have a higher than normal blood sugar level. It is not enough to be considered type 2 diabetes yet. But without lifestyle changes, adults and children with prediabetes are at a high risk to develop type 2 diabetes, end quote. And yes, being Black is once again not a good thing. Genetic traits, the prevalence of obesity, and insulin resistance all contribute to the risk of diabetes in the Black community. Having a high rate of diabetic complications combined with disparities, socioeconomic issues equates to Black people, quite honestly, just dying more often.
Yes, that is true. And when we talk about Black people, it's important to highlight, not only our ethnicity as African, that piece increases our risk, but also when you look at the color of our skin being Black, how that factor also increases as far as bias and that association with diagnosis of diabetes and all of the other factors that come along with it. So when we talk about the diagnosis of type 2 diabetes and how it has doubled among Black children during the first year of the pandemic, however decreased among white youth, we have to look at why is this happening? Why is it specific to this group or this race? And so it's rooted in multiple reasons. We know that Black Americans were overrepresented among essential workers during the early pandemic, and that really limited parents' ability to cook and limit screen time, which also is a part of what fueled those disparities. And the fact that it was already present beforehand, the pandemic just illuminated it. So again, so glad that we are highlighting, this statistic and really sharing this information, especially about the children in our community.
Absolutely. I think that, part of our responsibility in these conversations is not only to create awareness around prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, how it's affecting our children and families in general, but how can we help? How do we help these families prevent prediabetes and then prevent prediabetes from transitioning to full-blown type 2 diabetes?
So there's so many different factors, and it's hard out there as far as when you think of your diet, what choices to make. And so when we talk about our kiddos, and including mine, I try my best to see what vegetables or fruits that I can add to meals, and especially snacks. In my household, snacks are number one over meals. It's often right when I pick up what can I have as a snack. And so when we, are eating at home, restaurants, or if we have to utilize fast food, which I am very transparent, it happens in my household, just due to time and so forth, I always try to find a way to emphasize or suggest fruit as an option for a side. And I know when I say that, a lot of people are going to be like, why is she just just suggesting that. She's the parent. So I suggest it, but I do insert myself and we do get a fruit. But let me share why I suggest it. My goal is hopefully that suggestion becomes the kind of go-to in my girls' thoughts as they get older and they start thinking about their decision making with food. And so by modeling that behavior, I'm hopeful that they will, with their friends and other people, make those healthy decisions as well. So I encourage everyone just to try that, even just suggesting to yourself, oh, you know what? Instead of this, I'm going to have one healthy option, because those little small changes in your diet can lead to big changes, and even more can lead to sustainability. So there's a couple of resources that I would love to share with everyone that are great, that are free, and really rooted in credibility and inclusivity when it comes to sharing health information. So please check out the resource Health Unmuted. Eugene, it's an amazing mini-series podcast, and it is highlighting patient stories that have prediabetes and diabetes, and it's kiddos and adults. I have an 11-year-old little boy that I interview that has prediabetes, and he shares, how he goes about his day in the lunchroom, making choices for snacks. So this is something that can help anyone, yourself or your friends or family members. And it was funded. Was funded by grants, so it's a free resource for anyone.
And I love your note about modeling behavior. I think that is critically important, especially at that age. Your girls, and I coach basketball, boys and girls from an age of 5 to 14 years old for a lot of years. 99% of them were Black. And the modeling behavior piece of it is really important, not only from a healthy diet choice perspective, but kids have to be active. Kids are designed to be active. They want to be active. So from coaching through all of those years, I have two primary takeaways. One, peer-to-peer interaction is undefeated. Socialization is undefeated. Kids want to run around. They want to be together. They want to frolic. They want to, they have a lot of energy, and they want to share it with each other. We need to encourage that behavior, because the more kids are active, the more they will transition to adulthood and remain active. And also within their own peer groups, active people typically either active together or share some type of commonalities when it comes to exercise. So that's really important. And with video games and a few things and a few ways that our society has transitioned a little bit or kind of evolved a little bit, especially with the pandemic. Kids aren't as active or as outside as they used to be. Sometimes it could be the neighborhood could be a little bit, not as could be a little bit dangerous. But then there's also other factors. As much as we can possibly get kids out, I think that's really, really important, because when kids are outside, they are active, and activity is probably combined with a healthy diet choice. Those two things together, they really help reduce the risk of prediabetes. The other thing is, it does take a village. A lot of our kids within that basketball program, they would come to practice together. They would come to games together. If there was a big championship or playoffs the night before, they would stay over each other's houses. And that was mostly because a lot of them their parents may have had really challenging work schedules, so they couldn't get the kids to the games on time or to practice. And that would really be upsetting, not only to the one child that was that may have been the parent of, but to the entire team. The kids want to see their friends, and they want to see them participate with them. And then also limited transportation. I mean, a lot of people, especially in the inner city, may not be as mobile as some other people may be, so they would need help. The point to all of that is, if you can help someone else's child stay active when they may not be able to otherwise, please do. Because that, combined with healthy diet, and it all goes back into modeling behavior. Yeah, we're going to help each other. And kids, they want to bounce around, so they don't even realize how important that activity is. There's less recess, there's less gym classes, there's less opportunity for them to just inherently be more active. So when we can influence that behavior, I think it's really, really very important that we do.
I agree. And, when we look at the food, the current food availability is the foods are processed more than they have ever been in the past. And I think that is also a part of this issue. And we are seeing when it comes to disease rates, cancers, we're seeing people who are younger getting diagnosed with diseases that normally were in their 60s and 70s. So circling back to our kids, the foods that they eat have a huge, it can really impact their future health. So whatever they're eating now could impact whatever disease or different things that they could have a higher risk for or develop. So it's important that we, continue to highlight this piece and provide resources. And I love what you said, that modeling behavior, that group behavior is so powerful.
Yeah, and when it's a positive thing, it really does translate into a positive outcomes as an adult. They by no means are, you and I saying that it's easy. No. It was some highly processed foods, especially in the inner city. They're very available and they're inexpensive. So it is difficult to be able to run to, Trader Joe's or someplace that has maybe a bit of a healthier situation food-wise, and spend the monies that are involved there in order to make sure that your family is fed properly and at a very healthy level. So it's not easy at all, but hopefully together we can continue to talk about ways to make sure that people are getting in front of the activity and the healthy food choices that they need. And I think that forums like this, they're really important. We're hoping that people leave comments, whether it be direct messages or right into the post, so that, share these ideas, share these thoughts, share your experiences, share the ways that you may be, within your own household, making it clear that healthy snacks equate to fruit. I know I have a friend that kind of tricks her son into walking. So instead of just saying, when we come home from school, let's sit down and talk about how was your day, let's walk and talk about it. And it's funny because, I thought that was a really good idea. And it's funny because the average adult walking casually can walk a mile in like 15 minutes, maybe 20 if you're like walking and kind of, not in no rush at all. So, with an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, you can eat up a mile or two in 40 minutes. And those 2 miles times, let's say you do that 4 or 5. Now you're talking about 8 to 10 miles of walking. It's activity. And that is really, really incredibly helpful. So it's another almost sneaky way to institute a little bit of that behavior, the models behind that. And so that, the children, the families, the communities understand that it doesn't, you don't have to completely uproot your routine to exercise a little bit and have that little bit of exercise actually be impactful.
I am so glad you brought that up. And again, when we're talking about sharing information, this is a form of health literacy. We're talking about different ideas, because when you do that and then you pass it along, it allows other families, other people to think about new ways to be able to exercise. Like in my household, we do Motown Sundays and we do dance parties. And that started with my dad. And so we do dance parties and on Sundays. And, every once in a while we'll throw another dance party in there midweek. But that's another idea for people to think about, of having, a dance party. And you don't need to have a whole bunch of people dance by yourself. Enjoy that.
And we love to dance, so that should never be a problem. This is awesome. It's always awesome to talk with you and have these really, really very, very important discussions and conversations. And I hope that people that are listening or watching, they are finding this information as helpful as we are. We know that, again, it takes a village. We know that we're a few days from Thanksgiving, which is really exciting. So there's an opportunity just in itself, since we're around family, this particular week and during the holiday season, to talk about this a bit more. Talk about how we can be better together when it comes to our health, and how we can just in general support each other's plight as far as making sure that we're experiencing healthy outcomes on a day-to-day basis.
I love this. Thank you, as always, Eugene, for this. And I'm just glad that we we're helping people. And thank
Absolutely.
you to everyone who just takes the time to listen to us every month. We are grateful. This has just been a wonderful opportunity to help as many people as we possibly can.
Yes. Everyone have a great Thanksgiving, and we will talk
Yes.
again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.